Hello, everybody, and welcome to a pretty dang enthusiastic, jubilant edition of the show. David Talks Broncos back with me. Uh, the Broncos, they're in the playoffs. The drought is over. Postseason football. I am full of joy. I got to be in the building. What an incredible game to be at. David, where are you at? What's your takeaway here?
My face might not express it. Again, still making that final recovery from COVID this week. But man, I'm in shock. I'm elated. I can't believe I forgot, Zach, what being in the playoffs feels like. I forgot what rooting for a good team feels like. Really, until this year, man. It's been so long. So the fact, man, I was so nervous that something was going to go wrong. But we can put that hell behind us. Zach, this is a new team. This is a new era. We play good in the throwbacks. We go out and win 38-0. This was a perfect football game. Literally.
Yeah, I mean, you put up dang near 40. I think if you don't bench the starters, they do probably put up 40. Second biggest blowout in Denver Broncos history, and I think also I got this hat on the way out. Happy with this purchase.
Yes.
But
I got my Elway, courtesy to Mom. Elway
man,
throw.
shout out Mom.
Yeah.
But I'm thrilled. Yeah, it's nice being back in the playoffs. What a feeling it is. This team is on the right track. They're producing good football. Frustrating few weeks before this one, but I'm just happy with how they stamped their or punched their ticket to the playoffs too.
Yes.
It would have been really easy to just, I don't know, look past the team of Chiefs backups, let them, make a few early plays on you, and let it be too close for too long, and ultimately pulling away and getting to the playoffs, but leaving everyone with kind of the same gross feeling they had in their mouth after really each of these last 3 weeks. I know they beat the Colts, but it was kind of a disappointing display until the Colts self-destructed.
Yeah.
Instead, they come out and, like you said, have a perfect game. Defense shuts out the Chiefs wire to wire. Got a little help from a missed kick, but Butker's been missing kicks. Like, this is part of the sport. And yeah, and then the offense was sick today. The yards per carry numbers on today don't look outstanding. It's like 3.6 or so. But a lot of that was when the Chiefs knew the Broncos were just going to run the ball every play and try and drain the clock.
Yeah.
They started like 102 yards on their first 17, 18 carries or so. Sorry, David.
Oh, no, you're good, man. I want to piggyback off of what you're saying about the defense and just this team. Like, you wish you could have gone in Cincinnati, handle business after blowing that lead to the Chargers. It doesn't work out. Sean Payton, whatever. You can't criticize him this time. I think he learned from being a little too passive in that last game. Maybe playing for the tie, based off of some of his post-game comments a little bit. He came out today fully aggressive. He had the team ready to roll. And they're a young team, and I've criticized them at different points throughout this season of just kind of lacking that killer instinct. But, man, they showed it today. When you talk about the defense, this is initially what I was wanting to get at. Like Anthony Richardson came in here, Denver, a few weeks ago, and is just tearing it up, man. I can't remember how many times we've had, even, who was it, Gardner Minshew in that first quarter in the first game against the Raiders. He's tearing it up. He's throwing bombs to Brock Bowers, all this stuff. So there was a part of me that was definitely nervous about the defense making Carson Wentz look good, for the first half or whatever, and giving the Chiefs some hope. But it was great to see that the defense and the offense, they got off to perfect starts, and they didn't take their foot off the gas until really in the fourth quarter. That's what you wanted to see. Sure, this was against the Kansas City Chiefs B team, but this is what good teams do against inferior talent. You blow them out. Nobody's apologizing for the Saints victory that we had earlier this year. So I'll get off my stand, Zach. I just had to mention that. They took another step in that.
They almost quadrupled the point spread, and it was the second biggest point spread out there today. 11.5 points, and again, damn near quadrupled it.
It's crazy.
They lit it up. So I just, they did get a fairly easy opponent. You should decimate a fairly easy opponent, and they did that.
Yeah.
I mean, the backup Chiefs aren't going to be that much better than like the Patriots or whatever. The Bengals lost to the Patriots when they played them earlier in the year. The Broncos could play the Patriots, and probably don't win by 38. 38 points is hard to do. That's why it's only happened one other time in franchise history until just now. And then they demolished them. It was awesome. I mean, and honestly, I think it would be the biggest blowout in franchise history if they didn't bench the starters. I know I already said that, but I feel pretty damn confident in it. Want to jump off this funny comment Rock Walker had in the chat. Nix couldn't get 100% completion percentage, is even playable. Bo Nix sets the Broncos franchise record for single game completion percentage in this one. That's remarkable. Elway, of course, is a legend, but I think less so for Elway and more so for Manning. Just the style of quarterback that Manning was, and he had that amazing 2013 season. Just a remarkable game from Nix. Dang near flawless. He had a couple, like his first incompletion, he's kind of fallen away from it some, but you really got to be a nitpicking to complain about that performance. Some of the best he's looked all season. And, Steve Spagnuolo is a very respected defensive coordinator, even if he wasn't, didn't have the A team out there. But they did have a number of starters still. So thrilled with Nix. How did you feel about him today?
Yeah, especially some of those windows that he was still throwing into were really, really impressive. Downfield, some of the darts that he connected to Courtland Sutton, Devon Vele. And I just got to say, Vele's touchdown catch, hilarious. It's about time we had some of that stuff go in our favor, man, because I just feel like stuff kind of works its way out throughout the season. Maybe you win some you shouldn't, you lose some that you should have won, type of thing. It's kind of the same with Bo Nix and some of these touchdown throws that were dropped or whatever at the beginning of the year. Now we finally get one going in our way with that. It must have touched like four dudes' hands, and then it ends up in Vele's hands. That was really great. But his decision making, I thought for the most part was really, really awesome. I think one of my friends said maybe he missed Sutton on a deep throw on one other play or whatever, but he had a flawless performance. I would say that he had a perfect game, and the fact that I think he eclipsed total yardage, Zach, over 4,200 yards. Should be around, I think, 34 total touchdowns if you include the one that he caught. So you're getting that out of a rookie quarterback. Really great production and only 12 interceptions. So I love to see that ratio. Yeah, he was great today. And now we can go into Buffalo. I don't want to get too far into this, but we can go into Buffalo with Bo Nix and the offense and the defense both feeling incredibly confident. And we can just play a spoiler, man. No expectations on us. Like that's going to be a really fun environment.
Yeah. I was saying it earlier this week on KOA. We've seen, a more unlikely upset than the Broncos upsetting the Bills in Buffalo. Pretty recently in this team's playoff history.
They've already done it. They know what it feels like.
The Tim Tebow one is incredidly yes, this team also just went up and beat Buffalo, but we just saw
sorry.
But I kind of set that up ham-fistedly. But you have that win over Buffalo. They've done it recently. That one was incredibly unlikely. No one. I have a tweet that was smeared in my face, and rightfully so, for saying there's no way they go into Buffalo and win that game, and they did it with I think a much, or maybe not much worse, but a worse team than what they have this year. Look at recent Broncos franchise history, relatively recent at least. In 2011, you have Tim Tebow beating the Ben Roethlisberger Steelers. They had no business winning that one. I think the line will probably be pretty similar in this game to what it was with that team. The defense getting a shutout, I think, is big. I like Sherry's comment here about best part of this, backups or not, Chiefs are going into the playoffs with shit in their mouths, which is true. And I think the Broncos going in with the opposite feeling. yeah, it was the team of backups. But if we view it as a tune-up game, the Alabama schedules Citadel in week 13 or whatever, so they can get a nice little 60-0 victory to feel good about themselves going into the games that really matter. I'm glad the Broncos and the Broncos starters were out there. I think getting in a bit of a rhythm, seeing the ball go through the hoop a few times, so to speak, is great. Yeah, I'm thrilled with the vibes right now.
It's great. Let's talk about Marvin Mims, man. Like that
It.
guy from week 1 till like week 8, and I was like, get this guy off the team. I'm done with him. To now, I'm like, wow, I think he might be a nice little cornerstone piece for this offense, man. What'd you think of his performance today?
I mean, I agree. He's really emerged over this last month and a half, two months or so. He's been awesome, and I think he's got a clear role, at least as this gadget player who can also be used vertically downfield. Like I think ideally he should be this team's number 3, and then I think Valet should be the number 2, and if you want to flip those, I'm not gonna be mad at it. Hopefully Mims continues to develop and whatnot, but I think those can be your like 2 and 3, and then hopefully you can find a dude along the way. And I don't think it's a splash play for T. Higgins this year. Personally, it'd be exciting, but I think it's probably like 2026 first round receiver draft pick or something like that. And you roll from there, or maybe those are your top 2 receivers, and the game changing pass catcher for you is like Tyler Warren. And maybe he becomes a awesome tight end that you can run your offense through. So Mims, I think, has proven that he's more than just a bit player now, and he should be a major part of this offense. Going into next season, I think he's earned his keep in that regard. Hopefully, Sean Payton doesn't go away from him at the start of next season, like we saw this season. I think that's frustrating in hindsight. But he's a nice piece, absolutely. I think. I will say him looking so good and his stock going up, I think is more stock down for Troy Franklin. I don't think long term you're going to have both these guys on the roster together. Maybe Troy Franklin hangs around in 2025, but right now, if I had to bet money on it, I'd say he's not on the roster in 2026.
Oh yeah, 2026. Yeah. We'll have to see how that all shakes out. Yeah.
I think he's already towards the back end of the room. They're going to get more talent in over that span, and I don't know. But Valet, you mentioned Valet. How about him having a great? We'll get into Sutton and his incentives too. I think that's one of the bigger stories of the game. But Valet, he had some great catches, as D Bronx is saying here. What an incredible hit to find him in the 6th, 7th round. Joey and I were openly laughing on our draft show. Like, we didn't study Valet, but I don't think anyone thought this guy was going to get drafted. So, he probably doesn't even make it through a training camp. So, what do you want from us? And boy, we were wrong. Tons of egg on our faces. Completely embarrassing. He has been a home run pick.
I didn't even know he existed, man. I'm going to be honest before we picked him. I don't even know who he was. And the fact that he has played such a crucial role. Incredible. This is what I'm talking about, Sean Payton, baby. The synergy with him and George Payton, I think it's all working out. And I can't wait to see where this goes, Zach, because now we can see them work together for a third off season. Now having made the playoffs with, what was it? NFL history high of $89 million in dead cap money this year. Is that
it's insane. Well, the Russ cap hit is the biggest dead cap hit ever at 55 or something. They also might have the most dead cap of any team ever, which they're sitting at around 80 some, 90 some. It's ridiculous. Over a third of over a quarter, almost a third of their salary cap is in the gutter right now because of the Russell Wilson cut. They have $80 million less invested in this roster than damn near every other team they play against.
Track. This is how they put it. It's a league high 89 million with a single season dead cap hit, the highest in NFL history being Russell Wilson, as you put it.
Bingo. Yeah, so 89 million in dead cap, over a quarter, dang near a third. Actually at 89, it's really close to
That's
a third
crazy.
of their roster. So they have a third less financial resources to build their roster than almost every other team in the league, right? That's amazing in and of itself. But that doesn't mention the I think it's five top 75 picks they ultimately have given up through the Russell Wilson and Sean Payton trades.
Wow.
So not only because where do you find cheap talent? Well, you find it in the draft because of these rookie contracts. They don't even have that avenue. Like normally the biggest bargains on a team's roster are like your first or second round picks. Well, the Broncos don't have a lot of first or second round picks over the years because of all the moves they've made, and they don't have the financial capital. So their hands are tied multiple ways here in terms of roster building. And the fact they're here, one, credit to George Payton. He's got a lot of warts. I think I've been fairly critical of him in the past.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, good job. Marvin Mims looking great. Nick Benito's a home run. He's done a good job at getting the most out of the limited resources he's had. Had to tip of that to Sean Payton too. I know people were mad about these last two games, and there are legitimate points of criticism to continue to bring up. Why was the quarterback run game not utilized more? Why was Troy Franklin utilized as heavily and in the ways he was utilized? Like, I think there's points we can go on and critique. I think there are very few NFL head coaches who get this team into week 18 win and you're in game. I think there's very few. Like I trust 5, 6, maybe 7 in the NFL to do it. It's awesome. And you've got one of those guys to continue build around going forward. Maybe it maxes out somewhere. I know there's been complaints about he only has 1 Super Bowl ring. Okay, maybe it maxes out in the NFC divisional or AFC divisional round, AFC championship game appearances. And that'll be frustrating. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. When we get tired of divisional round losses, okay, let's have that conversation then. We don't need to have that conversation before the first playoff game has been played. But great job to I guess the foundation of this organization. There's some key pillars to like a franchise. Your owner, your GM, your head coach, and your quarterback. Broncos got all 4 right now, with at least a solid answer. I feel like George Payton right now, that's a solid answer, at least. Bo Nix, hopefully it keeps growing. I think he's a solid answer right now, at least. And man, Broncos haven't been able to say that for a long time. 3-4 years ago, they didn't have any of it. It's amazing.
South Park's got to put out an episode
about the Broncos making the playoffs.
Yeah, they because what we got South Park version of Peyton Manning, Jay Cutler, John Elway. It sounds like we need Bo.
Yeah. To find that running back, that they need to like take things over the top.
Yeah.
Like wait, we're sorry. Did you say Le'Veon Bell?
No. Sorry, I was talking about South Park.
Oh,
I was saying how we just needed a Bo Nix version of him in South Park. Sorry.
Oh, I got you. I butchered that for you, David. I'm so sorry.
It's okay,
we
man.
do need, honestly, we had Jay Cutler in South Park. I mean,
exactly.
And John Elway. John Elway makes sense, but Jay Cutler was in that thing. They better get Bo Nix in there.
Yeah.
I'm with you. They're Colorado icons. They get the for the bus game and everything.
Did we talk about the defense yet? Like they set the sack record for the franchise, right? Was that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
It was like over 60 sacks. They need another game to do it, but man, I don't care. Like this defense has been awesome. Now, throw away the comparisons to 2015. Can't do that, but I've loved to see how, again, 1 first-round draft pick on this defense, man, as you have mentioned throughout the season, Zach. For us to put up the sack numbers that we have this year is incredible, especially because we were talking about how this team had no alpha edge coming into the season. Maybe Jonah Ellis might establish himself as being that guy at some point. Oh, no. Nick Bonino, he just takes another insane step this year. Jonathan Cooper takes another awesome step. And now we have, like, I think a really nice edge rotation.
And Nick Benito, 3 years into his career, has taken a really big leap in his play. From year 1 to year 2, there was a big leap. From year 2 to year 3, and Joey and I were saying it this offseason, like hopefully he takes another step. He won't take as big of a step, because then he'd be one of the best edge rushers in the league. Like, because he took a massive step. To do that again, he'd be in the elite class. Well, damn, he did it again. And now he's in the elite class. The Broncos are going to have to pay him as such, but good problem to have.
Yes.
They're going to have, unless they butcher this situation with Benito, which I don't expect, but if they just do what they should do, they take care of business here on this contract, they'll have a really exciting edge duo that complements each other really, really well, with Cooper and Benito locked up for, the next 3-4 years at least. And that's a valuable resource to have. I mean, it's just, things look very bright for this team. Need to keep building. I like we were saying, wouldn't be surprised or stunned if they beat the Bills. But this probably isn't the Super Bowl year, but the foundation is so promising. Even on defense, like, I would want to build from the ground up on like defensive line, edge talent, and then like cornerbacks. Well, that's where this defense is built up from. Like, it's hard to sustain defensive success, but they are positioned fairly well to do it. Like, what are the positions they need to fill in? Linebacker and safety. Well, those are the 2 easiest positions to find and the most replaceable out there. So good spot to be in. I'm feeling very, very good as someone who wants the best for the Broncos.
Yeah, man. Like, and shout out to George Payton, or not George Payton, Greg Penner, by the way, because, it's never great to trade first round and a second round pick for a head coach when, I remember everybody wanted, man, why am I'm missing his name? I got COVID brain right now. The Houston Texans coach, D'Amico Ryans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone's like, man, you could have just had D'Amico Ryans, which, again, I don't like that philosophy. I like going with offensive head coaches. But for them to say, yeah, we got this Russ contract, we got all this, Nathaniel Hackett's a joke, whatever, but we're already short draft picks, but we're going to go ahead and make sure that we at least spend these next 2 draft picks on the culture, on the system, the organization as a whole. And we make the playoffs 2 years later. I don't really think like you can expect, or what, I don't know. It's just crazy how quickly all this has happened. And I think that they must be incredibly pleased as well, because again, I don't know, even if you're Sean Payton, you just sell them on a playoff appearance in the first couple of years of when you're taking over this Nathaniel Hackett-led Broncos team. I think that, it's surreal to see that we're here already.
It's really surreal. Really quick, Paul Schaefer asking, what day do they play the Bills? Hasn't been announced yet. I feel like it'll be the Saturday game. I feel like they tend to put the less marquee matchups on Saturday. Could be wrong there. But we'll see. I'm excited, man. I just can't believe we're talking about Broncos in the playoffs. I think that's absolutely amazing. Yeah, Justin Johnson here. Congratulations, everybody. Much love to all of Broncos country. Thank you, Justin.
Zach,
awesome.
I wanted to bring this up too.
Go
ahead.
You go. I want to get into Sutton at some point, but go with what you're going to go with.
I was going to talk about, I know that it's probably a smaller portion of the fan base, but they're like, what's the point of going to the playoffs when you're not going to win the Super Bowl type of thing. But we were talking a little bit about how Tim Tebow, did his thing, got us to the playoffs, and then threw for 300 yards. Of course, that attracted maybe the biggest free agency signing of all time, Peyton Manning, to come here because we made the playoffs and we made a little bit of a statement. Not that we need to go after a Peyton Manning type player. I doubt will even be available in free agency this year. But this does validate everything that Sean Payton and the team is doing right now. Who's to say like a strong performance, or at least a somewhat good performance in the playoffs against the Bills, even if it doesn't net in a win, I think could be the difference for some of these free agent targets making their decision of coming to Denver or not. And I think it's great.
Absolutely. And it's a valuable point. The biggest decision maker in free agency is money. Ultimately, oftentimes they just go to whoever's offering the most money. That's the reality of it. But the number two decision maker in free agency is the quarterback. And Bo Nix isn't going to have the magnetism that we saw a guy like Peyton Manning have, right?
Right.
But it's going to be a hell of a lot better than it has been for a long time. I mean, we saw it a bit when Russ came. When the Broncos signed Russ, there was a bit of a, oh, damn, like, let's go there. And then everyone realized he was garbage. But with Nix, and especially if he continues to progress, it's really exciting. And unlike, CJ Stroud, who's really, like, just going back to that D'Amico Ryans example, they had a great year last year with their rookie quarterback, but they weren't able to build on it because the architect of that experience on offense is Bobby Slovic, who now the whole NFL world is going, ooh, that guy might not have it. The architect of this experience is Sean Payton. And again, maybe there's complaints about where it maxes out, some of his blind spots, and I think a lot of them are valid. But I really trust him to get the most out of Bo Nix consistently and consistently put Bo Nix in a position to succeed. I think he's done it, I wouldn't say all year, but a large majority of the year. It has really built an offensive system set up to insulate Bo and put him, position him well to succeed. And Bo's taken advantage of it. He's upheld his side of the bargain. Don't worry, people. I'm not dogging Bo. But point being, I think you should feel very optimistic about this thing growing and building going forward. This assortment of offensive weapons, this should be the weakest it is. Until Bo's off his rookie deal. This should be the weakest assortment of weapons he has. The offensive line might take a little bit of a step back, but it still should be really good for the overwhelming majority of his tenure, where I think, you should just be really excited about where this team is headed.
All right, let's talk about Vele.
Yeah, let's get into the receivers. Vele, awesome game. I think they really have someone. Nick said that Vele's touchdown, he ran the wrong route, but that he didn't give up and got the TD after 3 deflections. That's crazy. I have some sound from the game. Or not from the game, but from the post game. We'll get in here in a second. So everybody who's curious about, I've got some fun Garrett Bulls comments saved and some fun Bo Nix comments saved. So we'll get into that in a second. But that's a fun story from Bo Nix. Credit to Vele. I can't believe we haven't talked about that yet. That's one of the most amazing or improbable touchdowns I've ever seen. I can't believe Adam Troutman wasn't out of bounds when he tipped it back in.
I know.
Like, there's a million parts of that play that were so unbelievable. I remember I think it's the Antonio Freeman had a crazy catch for the Packers in like 2004 or something. That's long been heralded as one of the greatest catches of all time, where it bounces around like 2-3 times and he gets it. This was more amazing than that. This was that times 3, like all the bobbles and tips, and one of the most amazing plays I've seen. What did it look like from home, David?
Yeah, you know what it kind of reminded me of course, without the game being on the line, but it was just as improbable as Kyle Orton's first start for the Broncos in Cincinnati.
That one was crazy, yeah.
That just gets deflected up to Stokely, and he just takes it to the house at the end of the game. That was that was awesome, man. I love seeing it. I love seeing some of that stuff go in our favor. And Bo Nix kept his red zone interceptionless streak since week 4 alive, which was just insane. What, over 20 touchdowns, 0 picks in the red zone since then. I think that he's 17 games in. You're done with your rookie year. I think definitely in this game, he handled this game like a vet should handle it, going up against backups, man. Just slice and diced them everywhere and got a little bit of luck along the way too.
Yeah, but he positioned himself well to take advantage of that. You make your own luck, that whole thing. Yeah, just a great performance from him. I'm excited for the advanced analytics numbers to drop. I know Broncos fans have been annoyed about the EPA stuff. Guess what? EPA is going to say Bo Nix was the best quarterback in the NFL this week. So, it's not all bad.
How about that air yards throw last week? How that's the longest completed air yard throw in the NFL.
I
I
think
love
that's an
that.
extremely funny aspect of this. And speaking of air yards, I think and he was going up against backups, but it's such an impressive performance in part because he was doing it downfield too. He
Yeah.
was taking a fair, he was taking advantage of the checkdowns when they were there and getting a lot of yardage off of those. And there were plenty of schemed up plays, but he also was just hitting on the deep shots, and that's not super easy to do. It was awesome from Bo Nix. But talking about the passing game, let's get into Courtland Sutton, son, who made himself a good bit of money, made myself some money today. Thank you, Courtland Sutton.
Oh,
I bet on the him getting his incentive and paired it with the Broncos win. I was scared about the line, and now I feel like a fool. I would have made a lot more if I parlayed those two things. But when Broncos money line, Sutton hitting his receiving numbers, and he hit it. So feeling good there. But what a game from him, making some really tough grabs down the field. And I think it should have been an even more impactful performance because there were a couple times where I felt it was a fairly clear pass interference that he did not get the flag on. The one in the end zone I thought was most glaring, where the guy's all over his arm. I mean, I feel like 9 times out of 10, 49 times out of 50, that's called on the defense. It not getting called there after, it's clear they were willing to call stuff like that based on the one that was on Surtain. And I think that was pass interference. But calling that one and then not calling the others was interesting to me. Anyways, great game from Sutton. Could have been even better. I know there's been some talk about moving on from him this offseason. I'd bring him back. I think he should be your number one next year. Valet and Mims, there's just not a great receiving option that's super affordable. But I won't go down that rabbit hole. Great game from Sutton. He was a dog. What did you think about Sutton today, David?
I'm so happy for him. Kodiak has this comment here, which is,
Oh, here I'll go.
it's just so unbelievably true. No, just this most recent one. The 4-year streak of no 1,000-yard rushers or receivers is over. That is insane. Congratulations to Coral. I think this is his first 1,000-yard season of his career, or at least since like the first couple years of his career.
First since 2019, when he first went off, and everyone in Broncos country, I think understandably so, was like, this guy's on the path to being an elite receiver. And then second game of 2020 pops the ACL, and I think it's been a climb back to this point. Because he only had the one touchdown today, right? Or was it 2?
I think it was just 1.
Yeah, so he's up to 8 touchdowns now. That's the second most of his career.
Yeah.
He almost came close to passing his yardage total, but he's gonna have 1,000 and 70 yards all said and done. That's the second highest total of his career. 8 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean 70. He's got the most receptions of his career. Great season for Sutton. I'm very, very happy for him. He deserves it, and excited to see him come back.
And I'm really happy for him because he's one of the few guys, Broncos country, that kind of holds some of this to the level that we do. Him and Garrett Bowles. They've been here since the start of the suck. I mean, wasn't Garrett Bowles maybe a couple of years ago? Didn't you say it's like something along the lines of, I try so hard every year, but we just suck. Like I hate losing. All we do is lose here. It sucks. And he's like breaking down.
One of the darkest points. Yes. One of the darkest points of this past stretch, really, to me, was Bowles. A player on the team that's been around for. He hasn't even been around for all of it, but almost all of it, just being like, God, this is miserable.
Yes, and the dysfunction, all the change that they've had to go through over the years. Like, I'm so happy to see them experience the playoffs in the Broncos uniform. I never wanted to see them go through like a Joe Thomas type of arc. That would be terrible. But yeah, I'd like to bring Courtland back as well. Not to go too deep into it, but the more I look into the receiver class and what might be available through free agency, maybe this might be the draft to draft 2 tight ends instead of 2 wide receivers.
Or load up on the running backs. There's a lot of sick running backs in this class. I think the Broncos could use a talent infusion there. If you want to take a receiver in the mid rounds, I'm down there. There's just not a crazy dude in this class. like Luther Burden has some fun elements to his game. Guys, you got a really like fun gadget receiver who's great after the catch. All right, you got Marvin. We don't really need to invest a first round pick in that role. You've got it covered with Marvin Mims. So, and then Ted McMillan kind of only wins at the catch point and tough to do in the NFL. Whatever. Just not a great receiver. And then T Higgins, I think, is better than Sutton, but is he, twice as good as Sutton? Because that's what you're going to be paying him. I don't think so. So yeah, I just and I agree with Rock and what you were saying. Really happy for Bulls. Glad he finally got in there. You mind if I go to this Bulls clip I've got queued up?
Yeah.
Sweet. I feel like this could be fun. I got some audio ready to go. Let me just get the right tab going here. Boom. Okay.
I've gone through so many different coaches and so many different things and so many different quarterbacks, but to be in this moment to take this franchise to what.
Try to turn the volume up a little bit.
To be one of the longest tenure Broncos, it's just a bitter. It's just not even something bitter. That wasn't the right word. It's the sweetest moment that I can think of. And I'm just extremely grateful.
Can you guys not hear it at all?
It's just a little low.
Yeah, I think,
we don't have to do that then if that won't work. But yeah, it was a nice idea. I'll see if I can figure that out for a future episode. But happy to see him. Thrilled to be I don't know, finally in the playoffs. He deserves it. Man, Sutton, another one you got to be really happy for. And I'm also happy for Sutton because I think it looked like he was going to be a big loser this season. As a result, like had a great year last year with Russell Wilson. They had a very natural chemistry, those two. And the switch from Russ to Bo, I thought was really going to hurt Sutton and his production. And instead, he has a career year, better stats across the board last year, except for the 2 receiving touchdowns, which granted is a big thing, but like 10 touchdowns is hard to do as a receiver. There's not many guys that do it every year. So coming back with 8, which is still a second highest total ever. I don't think Sutton's feeling bad about that move anymore. I would not be surprised if you hooked him up to a polygraph test in May or something and he was like, I'm kind of annoyed that I'm going to have to deal with this rookie when I had such a good thing going with Russ. I think now you could hook him up to a polygraph test and he'd be nothing but enthusiastic about what he has there at quarterback. And now he's going to hopefully, if the Broncos bring him back next year, get to continue to build chemistry with the quarterback, which really with him, what we've only seen with Russell Wilson. And we saw what happened with Sutton and Russell Wilson from year 1 to year 2. Exciting to think what could maybe come of his connection with Bo Nix from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah. I did not think that he'd have a career year after the year he had with Russell Wilson last year. And I think that's why, I've talked about it on my channel. It's like, how long do you hold on to the guy, right? Do you trade him, the summer leading into this season, right? Yeah, he's just been so solid. I think he's a great for the locker room. As long as the money's right, like let's continue to have him around. I think again, he wasn't like not as many like back-breaking drops or anything like that I really remember outside of like the first portion of the season. Like our wide receiver group as a whole took a nice jump. Man, Zach, if you would have said Will Jordan Humphrey still would have been on the roster with the Broncos going to the playoffs, I would have told you were lying. But it happened, man. It's just what Sean Payton's been able to do. With with these guys, man, it's crazy to see the development that we've seen. Like you even mentioned from some of George Payton's draft picks that maybe we were a little like on. To see them come out and, at the very least play serviceable. Again, Justin Sternad, like,
yeah,
I didn't expect anything from him. He at least wasn't, maybe slowing down a little bit over the last couple of games, but like he's been such a fine fill-in for Alex Singleton. And guys that maybe have been kind of late bloomers. I think everything that we got going on right now with the staff, and once you find that quarterback, everything else just kind of starts to fall into place and kind of understand the construction of the team, the roles a little bit better.
Yeah. And talking about those guys popping off, Nick Benito, Might have given Pat Surtain a bit of a run for his money for defensive player of the year with his great close to the season. I'm trying to get the box score up right now. I think he finishes with 2.5 sacks. I want to make sure it was counted as such. Oh, 2. Dang, I thought he was going to get 2.5.
Dang.
I wonder if that holds or if it gets changed. If it's 2.5, he'll tie Myles Garrett for second with 14 sacks on the season. If it's just 2, he'll be third with 13.5. Still amazing season from him. Just awesome. And a huge step forward. And yeah, like this is game changing. Again, we talked about it a little earlier, but finding an elite pass rusher seemingly out of nowhere. I thought he was maybe going to be a solid contributor going forward, but I thought Jonathan Cooper was going to be the best edge for this team going into 2025. And that's not the case. And it's not because of Jonathan Cooper disappointing. He had his career best year. I don't think he got his 2.5 to get to double digits, but he'll finish with 9.5, I believe. Still a great season for him. He finishes with 9.5. Oh, bummer.
Man.
But still great season for him. Surtain, though, how are you feeling about his defensive player of the year odds after this game?
Man, I feel like he should get it, man. But I know I'm biased, but how can you not? I mean, has he even given up a touchdown on the year? If he has, maybe it's just one. He's been insane. This is Champ Bailey level play. This is Champ Bailey level play. Yeah. Who's the favorite right now? I know he's probably in the top 3.
Surtain became the favorite a day or 2 ago.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and then TJ Watt failed to record a stat in his game. I'm trying to see if I can get
yeah, and he lost 4 straight. It's not a good, you can't give a player on a 4-game losing streak and end the season defense player of the year. Just saying.
Especially when that team's carried by defense because Russ is a bum. Sorry. Gotta get the pot shots in when I can.
Trey Hendricks. Yeah. But they make the playoffs. Out of there.
I think he's probably in pretty good shape to win it. I can't imagine it would fall off that hard. God, why can't I find awards in here? Maybe they've taken the awards bets down. God, I'm sorry.
Champ Bailey never won Defensive Player of the Year, did he?
He didn't. If Pat Surtain does it, he will be the third corner and just the second pure corner in the last 30 seasons to do it.
Wow. And surely they didn't give Darrelle Revis one then, right? If they didn't give Champ Bailey one.
They didn't give Darrelle Revis one. It's you've got Woodson did it in 2010 or 2011, something like that. But he was kind of doing the like cornerback safety hybrid thing at that point. Stephon Gilmore is the only pure cornerback to win it since Deion Sanders in 1994.
Wow.
So if he does it this year, it would be extremely rarefied air. And I think he should do it. I'm going to keep trying to find these ads, but I really hope he gets it because I always wanted to see Vaughn win Defensive Player of the Year. He was always at the top. Everyone knew he was one of the best defensive players every year. He played edge, so he was always in the running for it. And it just felt like, okay, well, one of these years he's going to get it. And he just somehow it never ended up happening. That I would love to see Surtain bring one home. And this is probably his chance. Again, it's barely happened in the last 30 years. If he doesn't do it this time, it's probably never going to happen in his career. And again, no shame in that. Never happened for Champ. Never happened for Darrelle Revis. Never happened for Richard Sherman. You know, it never happened for Patrick Peterson. It's not an insult to him if it doesn't happen. But it would be so special if it does. This is probably his only shot at it. I am rooting very hard for him.
Might he be on a trajectory greater than Champ Bailey?
I'll say that the Defensive Player of the Year would be a big feather in his cap to that point.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
And Champ got robbed in, what year was that? 07, 06, where he was just out of his damn mind.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he doesn't have the award. And I think Surtain having that would be a big, big bragging point. steep mountain to climb, to get past Champ. But the fact we're continuing to have these conversations is incredibly promising. And he might catch him one day. Like if he wins Defensive Player of the Year, it's going to become a much more serious conversation. Yes, going into the game, Surtain was up. He was a minus 200 favorite to win the award, meaning you would have to bet $200 to win 100. TJ Watt was plus 170, meaning you would win $170 if you bet 100.
Wow. Okay.
So
those have to widen after this weekend. Yeah.
You would think. He didn't record a stat. And then Surtain had a strong game. He had the one defensive pass interference flag. I think he allowed one completion. But a 38-0 shutout where the defense just dominates, I would hope is enough to push him over the top. One thing that concerns me is Benito getting 2 sacks. That I'm like, damn it, is he going to steal some votes from Surtain right here at the finish line?
Cannibalize each other, yeah.
Champ never won a ring. Okay, that could be another point. PS2 hopefully gets on him. He would be the first Bronco since Gradishar, right? Yes, and the only Bronco outside of Gradishar to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Who was Bond going? Was he just losing to JJ Watt every time? Was that just like what it was?
Khalil Mack got him a few times.
Because I know like his sack numbers were never like league leading. Right.
That was another thing. He was always like top 5, top 10, but he never had like the crazy year. Or the one year he did have 18. I think it went to someone else. I was surprised he didn't win it in 2015. But so like 2012 was his year he went off, but that was also one of JJ Watt's best years. Lost to him there. Kuechly wins in 2013. And then it's JJ Watt, Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald. That honestly, that's what it is. He plays for. I mean, Von Miller's prime is probably 2012 or 2012 through, let's say 2013's out of it because that was the ACL tear year. Say 2012, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, something like that. Some 5-6 years in there. And of those seasons, or let's even go to 2020. Why not? Just to make my argument that much better. Plays, 8-9 years in there. 6 of the Defensive Player of the Year awards are split between JJ Watt and Aaron Donald. Some of the best, the top 5 or 10 defensive players we've ever seen in the NFL. Getting robbed by a Khalil Mack is probably the most painful one, though.
Yeah.
That was the year he probably could have done it. 2015 went to JJ Watt the 3rd time. That probably would have been the year.
Dude, that's crazy that he won that many and no rings. And just as crazy as this, what Carter's saying, Tyreek Hill just requested a trade in his post-game interview.
That's bonkers. He's crazy. Paul saying sign the cheetah. Don't. He is extremely expensive next year. He's costing like Patrick Mahomes money next year at wide receiver, and he has not been the same dude this year. I think the Dolphins would frankly love to trade him. I think they're like, please, do anyone want to give us anything for this guy?
The Raiders
beat the Broncos in sacks. We're not that far removed from that being a popular mindset.
Man, yeah, Baron Browning. Still love the fact that we got a 6th-round pick for him. And again, I think what's so great, Zach, is that we're going to the playoffs. We got our quarterback, our left tackle, our corner, and our edge. So now we can just go find best player available. That's why, dude, I'm foaming at the mouth for getting some serious weapons for the offseason as well. I just cannot wait. And I know, man, I just got to say it. With the Saints possibly going 0-17 next year because they got to pay the piper. They're going to be so bad. I wonder if like Demario Davis or whatever gets cut too. Like I feel like inside linebacker should be something that we should be able to sign throughout the offseason. I don't want to draft it high.
Totally agree. I think inside linebacker and somewhat even tight end, though it's changing some at tight end in recent years. That's a position where you want to find the guy in the vet market and not draft him, in my opinion. They could save some money, I think, they might be over restructured on They might not be able to cut Demario Davis. Their cap's in such bad shape. Like they've pushed everything out so far that they really can't save much money by cutting
It's
anybody.
insane. What are they in dead cap for next year or over the cap
It's
right
not
now?
dead. They're $67 million over the cap for next year. And this is a very bad football team, and they're $67 million over the cap. And they don't have great mechanisms to save money. Here are the players that cutting them would save over or save at least $2 million. Ryan Ramczyk, that's $6 million. Kalen Saunders, that's 2.6. Foster Moreau, 2.5, and JT Gray would save him $2 million by cutting those guys.
Give
That's
me Foster Moreau on this team
and then
next
Cedric
year.
Wilson.
Yes.
They have like no moves to really free up money. But yeah, if the Broncos could get any of their draft picks, I doubt the Saints will part with them, but absolutely do that. If you can get any of the players running from that franchise, like you said, they're going to have to cut a lot of guys. Yeah, Sean Payton's going to know them very well. His staff's going to know them very well, and they fit in. I mean, I'm all for it. A lot of the Sean Payton guys he brought in that people were upset about have turned out great. Malcolm Roach.
Yeah.
That was a great move. Will Lutz. That was a really good move. Credit where it's due. I did not like it this offseason. I thought they way overpaid for him. No, that was a good play. Little Jordan Humphrey, even. Like, I know we've been annoyed with Little Jordan Humphrey this year. He's their best blocker that doesn't play on the offensive line. Like, the offensive linemen are better than him. But at tight end, at running back, at wide receiver, he's the best blocker. And you need that. You need it. It sucks they're not getting it from the tight end position, but because they're not, you kind of need that dude out there. So, and he's been the worst of the bunch. So overall, damn, credit where it's due. Man, I can keep going. There's a million wrinkles of this team that I feel so good about. Jaquan McMillan, excuse me. Should be McMillions shortly here, except they've got him locked up under team control for at least the next year or two. I think next year he'll be on a super cheap exclusive rights free agent deal again.
Then they can tender him, right? After the next year.
Next year he'll be a restricted free agent, and they'll be able to tender him. And because he's a UDFA, you can hit him with very cheap tenders that will dissuade people from signing him, to where the Broncos aren't going to have to worry about paying that guy until 2027. They probably start having talks next offseason just to get ahead of it. And that's your third corner. Riley Moss is locked up, through 2026, which is great. Again, same thing as McMillan. Surtain now locked up way through the future. I forget when his deal expires, but that's such a great foundation. I bet they lock Benito up this offseason. I think there's a very good chance they lock Zach Allen up this offseason. And I think you're sitting here in April, potentially like with a loaded defensive line class, and maybe talk about drafting DPA. The best player available, I think, very likely is a awesome defensive lineman. Which I'm not going to be mad at. You're going to have to choose this offseason between Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers. Not that they'll cut John Franklin Myers, but which of these guys do you want to pay long term? I think they bet Zach Allen. I think John Franklin Myers isn't long for this world. And you get a guy coming right in behind him who is a sick first round talent. And you go, okay, next 3-4 years here, we've got 3 awesome cornerbacks. We've got 2 awesome D linemen and 2 awesome edges. And it's hard to carry defense year over year. But if you're working from that foundation, that sets a damn high floor. That is really damn exciting. And I'd love to see it. And again, the offense should keep getting better. This should be the worst weapons Knicks has of his rookie deal. This should also be the worst version of Bo Nix of his rookie deal. So it's exciting. Man, sky's the limit. I am thrilled.
I got to ask you about this, Zach. Our running backs, we didn't really touch on them with this game. Who do you feel? Do you feel like Jaleel McLaughlin's going to get the start next week in Buffalo? How do you feel like that rotation's going to work out? I feel like it might be a little bit different just because in today's game, we were playing backups. Saw a little bit more Williams than I wanted to see, but what are your thoughts?
I think Javonte's still going to get some usage. I think much to all of our chagrin.
Yeah.
But I think Jalil's the starter now. I think that's official. He's coming out of the tunnel as the starter. They're still throwing Javonte a bone and having him be like one of the starters in the lineup. It's like you guys don't have two starting running backs and a starting fullback.
Oh, is that how they announced it at the stadium?
At the stadium? They have both of it. They did the starting offense today, and they had Jalil come out first, and then like Michael Burton and stuff, and then Javonte came out a bit later. But it's like that's not one of your starters. I mean,
No.
but so I think he's still going to get some usage. I think Jaleel and Estime will get more touches than Javonte. I think the Broncos have finally realized he should be getting the third most touches in that room. I think they just value his pass protection still. I think there's some wanting to do him a solid because he's about to hit free agency. But it's time to throw that out the window. You're in the playoffs now. Like it's not time to do guys solid. It's the time to do guys a solid. It's time to go out and win a game.
Everybody gets paid the same in the playoffs, right? So
yeah, I believe.
Yeah.
And also just, I mean, yeah, it's just not the Broncos' problem. Like win a game. Like rather than worrying about how the running back who's not going to be on your team in 2025 feels about how you handled the playoffs, let's make sure the 53 guys that are it won't be full carryover, but the 46 guys that are on your roster in 2025 do feel great about how you handled the postseason. I think that's far more important. I'll also say, just because I don't think we've addressed it on the show, yeah, it's great the Broncos are making the playoffs, even if they lose by 50 to the Bills. Even if they lose by 50, this is great. It is good they're getting experience, the playoff experience and everything. Good for the locker room, the team culture, all that stuff is going to help the buy-in in terms of coaching and all that stuff. So it's huge. All that's very positive. I don't know. The idea that the draft pick's better, I think, is ludicrous. Much better
this
off.
ain't
Also,
the draft to stress over that sort of thing either. That's how
also
I feel
very true. And if the Bills shell them, also good, because it's like, all right, hey, this was a good year, but we've got a ways to go. I think if this team feels good about themselves, like, hey, we accomplished something this season, but they're also a little humbled going into the offseason. This is a very young team. I don't think you want them riding on cloud 9 totally going into next season. I think if they're ultimately humbled a bit by Buffalo or Kansas City or Baltimore or, hell, maybe they'd never get humbled and they win the Super Bowl. That's ideal. But I don't think them getting humbled as they exit the playoffs is the worst thing either. So, hell yeah, it's great they're in the postseason. I'll gladly take the pick 3, 5, however many slots later.
If this defense can play to the elite ceiling they have played at times, why can't we go on a New York Giants run, baby?
If you get the best version of Bo Nix and the best version of this defense, the Broncos are a tough team to beat. They will be a tough out for whoever they see in the postseason whenever they see them. And I know it's set up for the Bills for week 1. I'm saying, beyond that. But yeah, I mean, after the Falcons game, I was saying I think this team will maybe even win their first playoff game. Now, that's when I was thinking they'd play Houston or some nonsense, but they could totally win that first game. The Chiefs, I think they could totally do. I think the hard thing is doing it 3 times in a row on the road. Like, you're going to have to, if I had to bet right now, I'd say the path would be 2 Buffalo, beat them, 2 Kansas City, beat them, and then I'd bet, we know those first 2 steps. Then I'd bet
Baltimore.
The final one would be Baltimore in Baltimore, which we saw what happened the first time around. If they could stitch those 3 together, though, and make it to the Super Bowl, I think those 3 will be harder than whatever their Super Bowl matchup is. I think at Buffalo, at KC, and at Baltimore, all 3 of those are more hostile, tougher to me than like a beat up Lions team on a neutral field, the Vikings on a neutral field, or the Eagles on a neutral field. And not to say those would be easy games. They will also be very difficult. But if they win the first 3, I think you're like, hell yeah, we can do this.
Broncos, at least with this Bet MGM page I'm looking at, Super Bowl odds plus 6,600. I'd like it to be a little bit more long if I were to put money on that. So what?
Are they the longest shot?
Oh, I don't know. I just pulled up their specific page. Let me pull up.
I got you. Yeah, no worries if you don't have it.
Hold
I
on
was
here.
curious. I might have it. Actually, I've got the futures open right here.
Yeah, maybe
I've got plus 4,500 to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's even worse.
Chargers plus 3,000. Bucks plus 2,500. Packers plus 1,700. I might waste some money on that. I think that's doable. Eagles plus 750. That seems low to me too. Bills plus 650. Vikings plus 650. Ravens plus 600. Lions plus 425. Chiefs plus 340.
Okay.
But who knows? Like you said, if you were to look at the Giants odds, heading into Wild Card Weekend 2007, they'd be horrific. Or the Ben Roethlisberger rookie year run. Who knows? You get in the dance, and anything can happen.
Yeah.
Any given Sunday, you just need a lucky bounce 3 weeks in a row. Crazier things have happened.
Zach, I did want to ask you this though. Do you have like any other like bandwagon teams you'll be pulling for quite a bit in the playoffs?
Everyone that's playing the Chiefs. A Chiefs 3P will kill me so hard. Like I want like anyone but them, literally. So like that's
you can take a Chargers Super Bowl, no doubt, over them.
For real. And I would cheer, like, if they play in the divisional round, which is fairly likely, I'm going to be cheering so hard for the Chargers. Like, I won't have any, I'm not even have to think about it for a second. Yeah.
Hell, even Pittsburgh, man. Yeah. I want to see them. And in the NFC, of course, the Lions winning would be cool, but I think it would be hilarious if the Vikings won it with Sam Darnold.
I think they could. I think they really could with that defense, and he's on fire right now, and you got crazy weapons. I think the Vikings, I don't know, really quick. Now that the playoff picture's set, as we sign off here, David, give me your Super Bowl pick. Who do you think plays in it? Who do you think wins it all?
Oh, yeah. It's a great question. I cannot pick the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl, so I will not. Give me battle of the purple teams. Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, they finally get there against the Minnesota Vikings. Baltimore wins. Minnesota Vikings fans continue to suffer. Sorry.
I think that's a great pick. I'm going to go. You know what? I can't pick the Chiefs, and it feels wrong to pick the Bills too now. To win it all. So I'm gonna go, or to make the big game even. I'm gonna go Ravens 2 on the AFC side. I don't want to lie. I want it to be different and interesting. I agree with you. I think it's gonna be Ravens Vikings. I think the Ravens get it done too. I'm with you 100% of the way. I want it to be different and interesting, but I don't want to lie.
Put some respect on Lamar Jackson's name. Let's go.
Broncos schedule has been announced. Or week 1 wild card weekend playoff schedule been announced. Broncos will play the Bills Sunday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Means I am getting up early on Sunday morning to run some pregame show stuff for KOA. But for all of us, that'll be exciting. 11 a.m. game. Can't wait for it. Broncos back in the postseason. To hear more about it, everybody, go check out David Talks Broncos. Link in the description below. You can also search for it, find it really easily. David Talks Buffs too. I think his Buffs content is unreal, and he drops like 3 videos a day in depth on every topic you could want to hear about with the Buffs. So make sure you're checking him out. What do I got going on? We'll be back tomorrow. I'll actually be on the show again finally, so that'll be nice. Excited to talk about playoffs with Joey and Bree. We'll have to come up with something fun to go through. Maybe we'll do a playoff bracket or something. But yeah, so we'll do that Monday. And thank you everybody for being patient with us over the holiday break we kind of took. And let's go Broncos. But David, I need you to shout out your stuff really quick first. I know I shouted you out, but
please. David Talks Broncos. I'll be back tomorrow talking with Mark and Jeremy about this. Going to do a collaboration with Kodiak Broncos podcast on Thursday, where we'll be rizzing up the whole team for the Buffalo game. It's going to be awesome. Broncos country, just enjoy this. Just enjoy this. This is amazing. And be sure to let everybody know on Twitter who's got the best quarterback in this class. It is the Broncos and Bo Nix, baby. Go Broncos.
I am with you. And also, I love closing on that note. Like, enjoy this. We've seen how rough it could be. And, you know, the Broncos have 3 Super Bowls in their franchise history. We're not just here for the Super Bowls. You can have a lot of fun when it's not Super Bowls. And the last 8 years haven't been a lot of fun. This season's been fun. Soak it up while this team is fun. And let's go Broncos. Beat the Bills. We'll be back Monday, both of us. See ya.